Greetings everyone. In the last video, we already have discussed that what's the model United Nation and how does it work and what you really need to do. And in the last video, I have also discussed that the basic procedures on how a committee work includes the basic rules of procedures. And in front of me, as you all can see, is a file of rules of procedures which is published by Harvard World Model United Nations. And for each and the rules of procedures can be divided into seven main types of categories, which include the general rules, the rules governing debate, rules governing speeches, rules governing points, rules governing part or draft resolution, and the rules governing voting and precedence of motions as well. So we would be moving towards the general rules firstly and discussing that what basically general rules are and how many types of rules are present in the general rules. So rule number one we have is scope, and it clearly says that all the rules that are present in this specific document are the rules which can be applied to the General Assembly, all committees of General Assembly, Economic and Social Council, regional bodies, and Security Council. And however, it also says that the historic crisis committees and crisis cabinets, which have very different rules of procedures and different drafting procedures, can either follow these rules or make their own rules. And it is clearly based upon the chairs, and it's upon their own discretion that either they use these rules or not. The second rule we have is of the language. So what I have seen and what this rules of procedure say that English is the official language of working, and what you are going to speaking of is all about English. And even if you want to present something or speak something in different language, then you're required to provide. Firstly, it depends upon the discussion of the chair. Either he gives you permission or not to speak in any other language than English. That's the first requirement, and the second requirement is that you are required to give the translation of that specific document or your speech in English to every delegate who's sitting in the committee. And in unmoderated caucuses, you also have to speak in English, and you should refrain from speaking any other language. And what I have seen is that there will and basically what happens in international immunes is that there are blocks which can be made on different what we call it as dialects, different languages. However, this should not happen. And the rule number three is representation, as I've already discussed it in the previous video, that you are given a specific country which you're representing, and you are the ambassador of that country. So one other important thing is that, as I have said, that the draft resolution is the heart of MUNs and United Nations. You can vote for a specific draft resolution as well as not vote for a draft resolution, and this is what the rule number three representation clearly portrays. The rule number four, credentials, is clearly about the registration process, and what I think is that we don't need to indulge into it, and you would be given this file after these videos are done so that you can go through each and every rule very clearly and concisely. The rule number five is the participation of non-members, and basically what we understand by the term non-members is the people or country who are not a part of United Nations, and United Nations have not recognized them as official countries. Like for instance, we have seen Israel and Palestine. And what I have seen in my immune experience is that the non-members can also be the observer delegates who have just come to immunes to see that how does the immune works, and they don't usually speak. The rule number six here refers to the participation of governmental organizations and press corps. Yes, that's the most interesting thing in MUNs, that you can be given representation of NGO as well as press corp or media press or all those things. Like for instance, you can be uh, given the personality of editor in chief of Khalid Times, and there can be a topic and there can be a topic in social committee like disinformation campaign, article 12 right to privacy in the digital life, and all those type of stuff. And you can also be given chair can also give you the permission to speak or present your and present your working papers. But it is also important to understand that you are not given the right to vote, which is firstly on substantive matters, and you only can be signatory on draft resolutions or working papers. Well, that's the other thing. The rule number 7 is the statement by the Secretariat, and it clearly says that Secretary General has highest position, and whatever the Secretary General is going to say, the delegates are going to be bound to follow what is the rule. Like for instance, if the Secretary General says that all the committees in this Model United Nations conference are to be dissolved, so it means that every committee is going to dissolve, and there's not going to be any other further debate. General powers of the committee staff. So what we understand by this is the basically chairs, committee directors, committee representatives, assistant committee directors, and assistant chairs. And every rule of procedure is going to be under their command, like marking your attendance and all those things. The rule number 9 is of quorum, and but we understand with of quorum, we need to understand it in very detail. Firstly, what I think, and I would also be explaining it in very detail. So, what actually happens is that when you go to a conference, you mark yourself, and which is known as roll call. And the roll call can be of two types. Primarily, yes, of two types. It is either present or present and voting. Present here refers that if you can present here refers that if you can, like for instance, for a draft resolution, you can like abstain for a specific resolution. You can say yes to a resolution, and you can say no. President voting, you are only given two requirements, which is either to say yes or to say no, and it is the minimum number of people or delegates who need to open the debate firstly and pass any other motion. So now you would be thinking that what is a motion and what are the points, and that's the most common term that is going to be used in immune conferences you're going to be a part of. So motions and points are the formal tools which can be used by the chair, which can be used by you to communicate with the chair. Like motions are going to be used in parliamentary procedures. For instance, a motion to commence debate, a motion for a roll call, motion for setting agenda, and all those things are going to be included in. And another thing is that quorum is the 1/3 of the committee. Like for instance, there are 30 delegates present in a committee, the quorum is going to be 10. So now the rule number 10 is courtesy, and it's a common thing that we should also practice in our life, is that we should be courteous and respectful to the not only to the committee staff but to other delegates. We must listen to them, and we must understand their basic idea and where the stance is, and that's what we could not see in Pakistan in most of the delegates. But however, we also say, in my experience, I also have seen courteous delegates as well as the delegates who are very rude. Electronic aid here refers that any types of electronic devices, for instance, laptop, phones, music, phones, AirPods, and all those things are not permitted. And basic purpose is that and the main purpose of not permitting you with electronic aid is that you keep your focus in the committee, right? And exceptions can also be made by the chairs, like for instance, you work on electronic devices, laptops, while drafting your working paper, while drafting your draft resolution, and all those things. And delegate conduct is that any MUN, not only MUN or any other MUN, it has a zero tolerance policy for slandering, despairing, or acting in any that is inflammatory, right? And rule number 3, absence, which we have seen most common in Pakistan as well in most of the delegates. And when there is going to be a roll call, and if you're not being marked as present, and if you arrive in the committee session during the committee session, like for instance the committee session was of 3 hours and you arrive in the second hour, then you need to write a check to the dice to either mark yourself present or mark yourself present or not present, because if you're not going to mark yourself present or present or voting, then you're not going to be recognized in all the session, which says that, which we can say as, not going to be recognizing general speakers list, you're not going to be recognizing unmoderated caucuses and all those things. And furthermore, participation also finalizes your award, because the ones who get best delegate award are the ones who are always present in the committee. And that's it from the rules, general rules, and we would be discussing the rules governing debate in the next video. Thanks for watching.